Hello and welcome to the expert live Q&A session by ParentCircle.com. The exam season is nearing, and we know for a fact that there's a lot that's running through your mind as a parent. This phase is challenging for you as well as your children. Today we have with us family and school counselor Ms. Arundhati Swamy, who will be taking up questions on helping your child cope with exam stress. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
It's going to be an interactive session, so viewers, please drop in your questions in the comments box and our expert will be answering them during the session. Do remember to mention your child's age as well as class. We'll start off the session by looking into the questions that were posted earlier in our circles, which are online communities of ParentCircle.com, after which we'll move on to the questions that are sent by the viewers. With no further delay, we'll go on to the first question. So the first question that we have today, ma'am, my daughter is studying in 12th standard. She was confident to get 90 and above till September 2018. When she started scoring less post-November during the revision exams, one after another in the revision exam, she lost her hope in the pre-boards and she got the same percentage. The teachers are asking that she knows the concepts, but she's making careless mistakes. I have never seen her this way. There are only a few days more to the board exam. She is confused, and I am also confused on how to tackle this. When I'm trying to say prepare only with the exam questions, she is telling me that I'm losing my hope on her. How can I deal with this?
Okay, thank you for that question, Rashmi. I think this is a pretty common question or stress that a lot of parents are facing. The run up to the board exams can be extremely stressful with all kinds of thoughts and emotions running, and the whole atmosphere around the home can make a big difference. Looks like this child who is going in for her 12th standard board exams, the mom says she's very confused. It's quite understandable because her experience has really changed drastically from, up to September, she has done so well. And then suddenly there has been a decline and it's been a struggle. And that's scary because when you're coming up to the, run up to the board exams on the eve of the board exams and you haven't been able to make progress, not been able to make up, with your performance, I can imagine what's going on in this child's mind, and it must be so distressing for the parent also to be thinking this child was doing so well and what has gone wrong and why should it happen just on the eve of the exam? Because we all know that these board exam performances, have a lot of impact on their future career choices, etc. The college they would go to. So it looks like parents and child are dealing with a lot of distress and confusion. So, what I would suggest is focus on those emotions, the distress and the confusion. They are emotionally very draining experiences, and it can just take the focus off whatever you're trying to achieve. So, for her daughter, I think she needs to, just have somebody understand her confusion and empathize with her distress. So a suggestion I could make for the mom here is to say, you know what, you're really distressed and you're looking so upset. You want to talk about it. And if she chooses to talk about it, great. If she chooses to keep quiet, respect that. But at least she knows that her mom is cued in and is sensitive to her emotions. On the other hand, I think there's not much that the mom can really, do regarding the performance. It's all in the hands of her daughter. However, I think mom really needs to de-stress herself. So do whatever it takes to calm down, to take time off, because the more you watch your daughter, almost like under a magnifying glass and, trying to tell her what to do, when to do, and how to do it, it's only adding to the stress. So I think both mom and daughter need to really de-stress here, focus on the emotion because difficult emotions can just take the focus and attention off the studies. So good luck to you, mom and your daughter. Take the stress off, do what you need to actually, have some free time and some relaxed time and just allow your daughter to to do her best rather than expect her, to get marks within a certain bracket or whatever. It's too late to, hope. Also remember that your daughter is worried about your own expectations, her own expectations. So I think the only thing that you can do now in these last few days in the run up to the exams is to just relax and give her her pace, space, and time, and just encourage her to do her best.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that very detailed answer. So we'll go to the next question. My child sits for learning but is not able to retain that much later on. Compared to the efforts, results are not much satisfactory. What do I do?
Oh, yes, that can be quite, again, disappointing for a child who's putting in so much of effort and then doesn't get the desired results. The mother here has spoken about not being able to recall,
Yes.
whatever she learns. So while the child is sitting for learning, we don't really know how much of focus and attention is going into it. Just sitting with the books does not indicate that actual learning is happening. So I think mom or dad can have a conversation with the child and try to figure out, what is the learning style of the child, what is the learning pattern, and help her with certain memory techniques. One of the most effective memory techniques is what we call chunking. Break it up into small bits. So you read something, understand the concept, and memorize the important points rather than trying to memorize a whole page or pages of notes and concepts. That's really difficult for some children. So chunking really works. Another memory technique is what we call mnemonics, where the child identifies the main points in the answer and takes the first alphabet of each point, puts them together, strings them together into, it usually turns out to be quite a nonsensical word. But the funny thing is we remember nonsensical words better because they're strange, right? And then when she takes each alphabet, she really can kind of it helps her to remember, okay, what this point is about. For children who are artistic, they doodle and they make little patterns to remember. Sometimes just associating a tough piece of information with something funny and humorous helps them to remember. So there are a lot of techniques that parents can help their children with in memorizing. So memorization can only happen if the child has actually paid attention, understood the concept, retained it and revised it in the mind, then recall becomes better. So I think these are the steps to follow.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing those techniques, ma'am. I hope this will help a lot of children across different age groups also. So we have a few questions coming up during the session also. What is the best motivation during exams to relieve stress?
Okay. I thought when I heard motivation, the next word would be to study, but it's interesting to see that motivation to relieve stress. So I think what works best for the child and for the parents. So by now I think they're all aware of what is it that really makes them feel relaxed and comfortable. So find out whatever it is. You don't need to learn something new or try out something new. It's safest to go with what already works with you. So it could be listening to music, going for a walk, playing a game of football or basketball or cricket. It could be just sitting and staring into space for a few moments, and that's okay too. So there are multiple ways that one can relax. Deep breathing, but deep breathing only works if the child has been already practicing it. To suddenly start now, I don't know whether it could really work. So that's why I'm saying try to do the things that you've already learned to relax with, and make sure you do that. It's a great idea to relax just before you sit down to study, and of course at the end of the study. And for some children, it helps when there are small breaks in between, but make sure that those little breaks don't become very long breaks. So how do you keep that under control? The breaks should be taken doing small, simple things to relax. It could be just, stretching your legs, taking a walk, listening to a bit of soft music, not anything that can overexcite you. Because these activities should relax the person, not draw the student into engagement, which would then take them away from their studies.
Correct. Yeah. So our next question is, my 14-year-old always faces difficulty in remembering what she studied. Though she spends significant time on studying with notes and making bulletin points, she ends up forgetting what she studied during the exam and spends a lot of time thinking for the answers. She's feeling less motivated because of this. How can I help?
Sounds like, this child may be having what we call exam fear or exam anxiety. And this is really common amongst a lot of kids. So the idea is to figure out what is it that is making this child afraid of the exam. She's putting in an effort, she's working hard, but all of that doesn't produce anything, because when she's writing the exam, she's stuck for the answer. So probably there's some fear, will I remember? How much can I remember? Am I writing the right answer? So the mind is filled with racing thoughts about, what can go wrong rather than what can go right. So I think it's a good idea to, what we call practice this child before the exams. Let her imagine that she's getting into the exam class, sitting there, the paper has come, she's reading the answers, and then all that stress is building up because of the, innumerable thoughts that are running, scary thoughts. So let her do this exercise, maybe twice a day, once during the day and once before night. This kind of desensitizes her in the sense that the effect of that stress gets reduced because she's doing it so often. And so towards the end, closer to the exams and during the exams, she'll still have the same experience, but it won't affect her as much because, okay, I'm comfortable. I know what this is about. And I know that once it touches its peak, it will also, decrease. And so the effect of that stress is decreased, and then it becomes more manageable, and therefore it will not block her memory as much as it should.
Correct. So we have another question. My neighbor's daughter has reduced appetite during exam season. How can parents help?
Okay, this is a typical symptom of stress, a reduced appetite. So it's quite natural, that you might lose your appetite. Some kids gain in appetite, sleep patterns change. But it's nice that, the parents are, noticing that these are the changes. And so now they can prepare. So go with what the child is comfortable eating. She may not eat a full meal. She may not eat, her favorite foods, etc. But just continue to make sure that she's getting a lot of fluids and a lot of, nutrients in her food. So let her be picky, let her be choosy. She'll probably eat things that she finds easier to digest, doesn't make her feel heavy, etc. But if we put too much of focus and attention on the food, it can only stress her out more, because the cause itself of the loss of appetite is stress. So we have to be very careful that we don't add to that stress, but help her to, minimize it. So just make sure she eats and drinks a lot of fluid, maybe small meals or small amounts of food, but more frequently.
Thank you, Mom. The next question is, my daughter is going to appear for her 12th boards. She has always been a good student, but as the exams are nearing, she's feeling very scared. Also, her relatives and close friends are constantly pressurizing her by saying that they expect great results from her. She's constantly worried whether she will meet the expectations of others around her. Sometimes even my husband and myself, we scold her if she takes short breaks, and later we feel guilty. Please help me calm down and give my child some encouragement.
It's great that this parent is saying, please help me calm down, because I think that's the key. When children see parents stressed and they know parents have so much of expectation, apart from that, they have great self expectations. And added to this child's, stress is the fact that a whole lot of well meaning relatives are trying to encourage her by saying, we know you can do great. They believe it's encouragement, but it's possible that this child is feeling overwhelmed with this great expectation, so everyone wants me to do great, they believe I can do great. And the next question that comes in the mind of the child is, what if I don't? What will happen? How will my parents feel? How will all of these well-wishers of mine feel? How can I disappoint them? So all this child's emotional energy is diverted to trying to figure out all of these difficult questions to which she probably has no answers. So what I would suggest is, keep your child away from relatives who are well-meaning but may not say the right things, right? Protect her from them. Even if they say it to the parents, do not communicate this to the child. Okay. And there was something else that you talked about a little
about
earlier.
how even while taking short breaks, the husband and herself, they might ask her to, like, they might want her, but then later they feel guilty about it.
These exams, they make everyone feel so stressed. Parents are sometimes even more stressed than the kids. So they're just watching every move. And the moment a child takes a little break, why aren't you studying? And this can really annoy a child. So I think a good idea is for parents and child to sit down and talk about what are the things that make the child feel comfortable, what are the things the parents say that make the child feel uncomfortable. Be open to what the child is saying. Don't take it as personal criticism, because you're here to create an understanding so that the parents can play a supportive role to the child. So reminding them constantly, why aren't you studying? Your breaks are too long. You've got so much to study. Just doesn't help at all, because what is the message that the child gets? You guys don't understand me, right? And that's exactly what they want. So sitting down together and chatting about these things, I think, helps parents to realize what works for this child. And if little breaks works for this child, so be it. And if the parents notice that the breaks are getting extended quite often, then they can talk to the child and say, what, do you want a gentle reminder from us? Rather than, just barging in and, all the frustration and anger, the facial expression, the body language, the tone, it puts the child off completely. So even if the child wants to get back to books, does get back to the books, but is now focused on all those feelings, of frustration, anger, fear, all of those piling up. So what I would say, the bottom line is, make sure that both parents and children are feeling emotionally more in control of themselves. And the best way to do that is to relax.
So our next question is, my son is in class 8. He is not good at maths. He practices a lot but still gets scared before the exam. He has his maths exam on 15th March and is really very scared. How can I make him believe in his preparation?
Okay, so math is usually a bogey for many students and for parents. So I think a lot of it stems from their early experiences of learning math. So if there has been a strong negative experience when learning math at a very young age, that negative experience tends to stay on with the child, and the child begins to see it as a difficult subject, associates it with, unpleasant emotions, conversations, etc. So I think what the parent can do here is talk to him about his fears. What exactly are you afraid about, math? And let the child begin to get in touch with his own fears. He knows he's afraid, but he needs to clarify them in his mind, because once you're clear about it, then you know exactly what to do about it. And of course, with the help from adults. Right? So sitting for a math exam can be very scary because there's the problem sums that you have to do, there's the calculations, there's the application of methodology, etc. So help your child identify which of these areas is really bothering him. Maybe there's just one thing or a couple of things that he's finding difficult, but then he sees the whole math as a problem. So he looks through it through that, at math through that very narrow lens and imagines that the whole subject is difficult, which is not true. We are probably struggling with just one or two aspects of, math and imagining that everything about math is like that. So he needs a lot of reassurance and he needs to see that, yes, I'm afraid. What exactly am I afraid of? And what are my difficult areas and how can I work with those areas? Who can support me? Can my parents support me? Can I ask my friends and teachers at school? Do I need an extra tutor? Parents can help him work that out.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. My daughters are 15 and 11 years old. I would like to know how to exactly know which is their area of interest and how to help them with their best way of studying a particular subject of interest or dislike.
Okay, although this question does seem unrelated to exam stress, but what we have found is that when children are very clear about certain interests or subjects they want to pursue, that becomes a strong motivating factor for them to do well in their studies. So how do you find out interest? It's by keenly observing your child, having lots of open conversations with them about what they like, why they like it, and how did they get to know about it, and whether you're seeing your child pursuing it or just, it's emerging as a temporary interest and then it fades away, which is also okay. But to help your child identify interests that could turn into a career, the best time is to start in class 8 by having very informal conversations with your children around the dining table about what you as parents did. What were the choices you made? What were the subjects that you had a liking for? Did you want to work in something but you ended up working in another area? So I think it's a good idea for parents to start sharing their own personal stories about work. Because this is the only way children get introduced to the world of work. Otherwise, suddenly they're thrust into grade 10 and have to make this big decision about what subjects to take when they have no clue or idea about the world of work. So in grades 8 and 9, have lots of open conversations. First, parents share their own stories about their choices of work, the subjects they took, do they regret them, any decisions that they made, etc. And once they have understood their parents' stories, they can start talking to other people, grandparents, uncles, aunts, older siblings, cousins. And then whenever they meet other people outside, apart from all the other conversations that they have, they can also ask them, what work do you do? Why do you do it? How did you make that choice? What do you like about it? What is it that you don't like about it? So you're opening up the mind and creating a space within that mind where a context has been set for work. So when they have to make choices, then sometimes they're very clear about their choices in 10th for the subjects in class 2 and in 12 for the careers ahead, the specialization. So if that's happening, it's great. But there are lots of children who are still not clear. In that case, parents can have again conversations. And if you're still stuck, then it's a good idea to seek the services of a professional career counselor.
Thank you, ma'am. That was really helpful. We have another question. How do I deal with my own anxieties with regard to my child's exams?
Okay. Yes. I think we've been talking a lot about that,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Parent anxieties. So a good place to start would be to reflect upon your own childhood. And what did exams do to you? Are those anxieties building up from there? Because then it's deep rooted. So, your parent can just look at how those experiences are impacting her relationship and her expectations and the way she handles her child in the present. And just knowing that, that's where it's coming from. Okay, now I have a choice, so I can shift gears, or I can, use another approach, right? There's bound to be some amount of anxiety, and that's okay. We all have a normal level of anxiety, and once it crosses that threshold of normal anxiety, that's when you begin to feel a lot of physical symptoms and emotional stress. So when you're aware that it is crossing that line, then it's time to say, okay, what is it that I can do to de-stress? I remember one mother was telling me earlier that when takes time off to relax for herself because she's also anxious, then she begins to feel guilty and she says, oh, I'm enjoying myself, but my daughter or my son can't do it. So the important thing is not to feel guilty, because ultimately it's that atmosphere in the home which can really support the child. And if parents can deal with their anxiety, I'm not saying don't be anxious. However, work with that anxiety, de-stress, do things that help you to relax, so that when you present yourself in front of your child, she sees somebody who is fairly calm, because that's what she needs. She needs that calm environment, and she needs a comforting environment, because when kids see their parents anxious, they pick up that anxiety. So now they're dealing with a double dose of anxiety, mine and of my parents. That's so hard for them, right? So do whatever it takes. Parents know, and the important thing is, please don't feel guilty about taking care of yourself, because the most effective parenting happens when parents take the best care of themselves.
Thank you, ma'am. My child has difficulty sleeping during exam times. Please help.
Oh wow, that's a bit scary, isn't it? Because she may know all the answers, but then there isn't enough time because she's sleepy. So it goes back to asking questions about how much of sleep is this child getting. And it's a very common practice among kids to stay up all night, burn the midnight oil, and just cover a whole lot of portions, which is fine. But we have seen time and again these same children dozing off on their papers, over their papers, falling asleep, have to be awakened. So, I think it's a good idea to explain to children why sleep is important, how it refreshes. And it's just not 6 hours of sleep, it's 6 hours of continuous sleep. Because some of them sleep for 2 hours, wake up, study for 2 hours, and then go back to sleep. So in a total, they say, yes, I slept for 6 hours, but it isn't continuous. And unless it is continuous sleep, it's not going to be helpful. And sleep deprivation catches up. It just interferes totally with your focus, your attention, your memory. So just help children to understand that, how important sleep is, and how it can help you remember whatever you have learned if you get the right kind of sleep and the right amount of sleep. Because if you don't sleep enough, no matter how much of effort you've put in and you feel so satisfied that you've learned a lot, there is no guarantee that the child is going to remember everything, and right, because then all the cognitive faculties are fuzzy, and the child is drowsy and just not able to perform as much.
Thank you, ma'am. My 16-year-old is very relaxed and playful. Even a day before exams, he is not serious about it, and he is very lethargic. His grades are very poor, and this worries me about his career. He hardly sits with his books. This stresses me a lot.
Okay, 16-year-old, I'm guessing, is in grade 11.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is the time to set things right before he gets into grade 12, because then, the pressure just builds up. So apparently this child seems to have a pattern, and he's gotten away with it so far.
Yeah.
Right? So it's important to, work with the child right from now onwards and change that pattern. But why is this child going to say, yeah, I'm going to change my pattern? There has to be some reason for him to do it, right? So one helpful tip I can give here is for the parents to talk about what is it that you want to be doing in the future. What are his goals? And if he has a goal, it may be unrealistic or realistic, that doesn't matter. We won't judge it. then work it out backwards and say, if that's what you want to do in the future, what do you need to be doing to prepare for that, and work it out backwards till he is now in his, going to be in his 12th, and say, well, do you think this matters? Your 12th standard and your 11th standard studies, do they matter? Are they going to be that step towards that goal? So help him connect with something that he wants to work for, and that could help him rearrange his schedule. I think, it's hard for parents, when kids develop a certain pattern, but they just get by, and sometimes we're just helpless, or we just say it's okay, later on he will change. But all of this foundation needs to happen in the younger classes, when they're younger. And now suddenly at this age, to intervene and to try and bring about that change, it's a challenge, but it's not impossible. So as I said, one way of doing it is to link whatever he's doing now to something that he wants to gain in the future. That becomes a great motivating factor.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. So I think we can just take one last question. My son will be appearing for his 10th board exams in a few weeks. He's a bright student, but he keeps postponing everything and ends up studying everything in the last minute. A couple of days before exam, he'll never sleep or eat properly and will end up getting stressed. What can I do to change this habit of his?
Okay. So the parent wants to change the habit of the child. Does the child want to change the habit? So rather than the parent trying to change the child's habit, we have got to see how can we make the child realize that it's important for him to change the habit. So talking about studies, why it's important to, do it in this particular way, and these are the benefits, I don't think it's going to have much of an effect. So how do we talk to the child? What do we talk to the child to make him realize that he needs to change something, right? This is a toughie because they've already set into a pattern, and one way of doing this is to connect it with some other interest they have. Yeah. So it could be art, it could be music, it could be dance, it could be a sport, whatever. So if the child has an interest, it could be something like gaming, or playing computer games, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So talk about what is it that works in that game, what draws the interest of the child, what makes him want to go to the next level, what kind of strategies does he use to overcome hurdles in the game and to move forward. Because if he's doing it in the game, that means he has the resources. So the next step then is to help him apply it to not studies, but to something else. Okay, so if you had to take the same skills that you have there and you had to apply it into any other scenario, just come up with any kind of scenario where he learns to transfer the learning from one situation into another. So that helps him to see, okay, I do have skills and I can use them in multiple spaces, not just in one, in gaming. Right? So that builds his confidence. It's not like I have to start from scratch. It's not like I have to change anything within me. It's just that I need to, understand my skills and learn how to transfer them into another situation. Because when you tell a child that here you have to change, it's too overwhelming. Change. I don't even know how to do it. I don't even want to think about it. But here is a method where you just point out to the child all that is already there, and then gradually, after a couple of other scenarios where he's applied it, then say, how do you think it might work with your studies? I think he'll get the message and he'll definitely feel, okay, it's not that difficult. I have it in me. I just need to, tell myself, if I can do it there, I can do it here too.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So I think we're at the end of today's session, and I'd really like to thank you for spending your time and answering all our questions from our parents and users in so much detail and giving us a lot of valuable techniques that parents as well as the children can follow. And I hope this session would have been really helpful to a lot of parents, and this can help you in dealing with stress as well as help your children during this exam season. If you still have any more questions that you would like to ask us, do post them in our circles, which the comment section will have the link to them, and we'll have our experts answering them very soon. And please do stay tuned to our website for more such live sessions, and do subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you once again.